be as loud as you can.
So that they can plug it in like if there's a place they can plug it in here, right? Then we go over there. I think it's cut all of these.
It's just these two.
It's this one and actually I guess it's just one.
That's what gets me all the time.
One of the managers that works on this part as well as the overall Gateway Lunar program. I'm just going to start talking about it, but I absolutely welcome you guys to ask any questions, engage however you want. This is Dylan, and he's going to try to get a loop going so you can kind of see how it's built up over time. So this is the first time that we're actually building a station like this in lunar orbit. Hugely exciting for us. This station, and this is one piece, this is called our Habitation and Logistics Outpost. It's our first habitable module that will fly up, along with our sort of power propulsion engine. So we've got to have power when we're in space, of course. We've got to have a way to stay where we want to in space. So we're going to have our power propulsion engine element come up, bring our Habitation and Logistics Outpost, which is HALO, because NASA loves acronyms. So we've got our HALO modules coming up together. We're going to launch these first two pieces hopefully around 2025, maybe extending into 2026 a little bit. We're going to do that uncrewed. So we're going to launch it up on a SpaceX Falcon Heavy launch vehicle, and then it's going to spiral out real slow to get out to lunar orbit, and it's going to take about a year actually to get there. It's a very efficient propulsive environment, but it just takes a while, right? So it's going to go out there, take about a year. So by Artemis 4 is the first crewed system, crewed time that Orion is going to take crew up to the gateway, meet like the train station, meet at the aggregation point of the gateway, and then the human landing system from our first one is going to be SpaceX base, their Starship, is going to come up and meet there. So we're going to have our crew aggregating at the gateway, along with Orion is bringing another module, so I'll talk about the build-up in a second too. All of this will meet up in lunar orbit. They'll do their checkouts, they'll do their safety checks, they'll make sure that they transfer any cargo that they need, any science experiments that they need, whatever they need to get into. They're going to take all that, put it in the HLS and go down to the orbit. Now our first missions, we're going to have a couple of crew that stay up on the gateway, and they're going to have lots of things to do. They've got some outfitting that we need to do because it's really hard to get lots of mass into space. So we're going to send out the majority of it, but then we're going to have more and more pieces that go up over time so we can do more science, more experiments, more technology demonstrations, all the different things that we want to do. This is going to be an outpost that is the sustainable part of Artemis. It will permanently be around lunar orbit so that people can come and go. We obviously have Orion and HLS as being our main NASA mission, but it will be open in the future too if SpaceX develops a crewed system that can go all the way out there. Theoretically, they could come to Gateway as long as they bring their air and their water, the things that they need for crew to survive, and the Gateway will be there, and we will constantly be doing some of these technology demonstrations, some of these science experiments, all of this leading forward to Mars. So that's really what we're trying to do. The International Space Station is amazing for really figuring out how we live and work off the surface of the Earth, right? With zero gravity, having to take everything we need. This is our next step out there to get us farther away, which messes with your head a little bit, right? I mean, it's a whole lot different, even if you're going camping. It's a lot different when you're at the KOA and hanging out versus if you're doing backpacking 3 days out into the wilderness, right? There's a different psychological, so we got to figure out what that does to people, what that does to our systems, and build up over time.
So that'll be the first time that astronauts enter Gateway will be through IHAB, and they will dock it, they're going to activate it, they're going to do a bunch of science. That's our Canadian robotic arm. So you guys got to know Jeremy Hansen a little bit. The reason that Jeremy is flying on Artemis 1 is because the Canadian Space Agency is providing that robotic arm for Gateway. So that's what got Jeremy on the Artemis 2 mission. Let's see.
like a plant explosion or something where there was a hazardous environment that was hazardous to humans, the idea was to provide this remote operations capability. And you can see that the operator, Ian, is wearing commercial VR gear. So you've got a VR headset and then two VR controllers. And then he has some buttons where he can toggle different gestures with the hands. You can see we actually got two for Artemis, as many of you know. The crew are going to be present on the lunar surface for a limited amount of time. And so our goal is not to replace the crew presence, right? But instead to take on tasks that are sort of the overhead of exploration. So logistics, some maintenance, some assembly, trying to set things up so that all of the equipment and supplies are pre-positioned for the crew once they arrive, and they can spend more time exploring and doing science and things like that. So in order to do that, we're trying to make the transition from having a system like we have today, which is really dependent on following, like mimicking exactly what the person is doing, to going to a more autonomous system, because there are limitations in terms of communication. We don't have 5G on the moon, at least not yet. And so we'll need the robots to be more autonomous, more self-sufficient, at least for individual tasks. So, for example, we might have a system where the operator can command the robot to open the bag, and the robot can complete that task itself. The person might still sequence all of the steps and handle any issues that come up. That's one of the issues that we have with terrestrial robot systems today, is that they're either too specific to a certain task, or they're not as resilient to something being in the wrong place or something unexpected happening. So that's what we're trying to get to, is something that's more robust. So yeah, you can see example of human robot cooperation. We also got the hat out of the bag. I'm going to demonstrate the walking. The walking is a little bit different than the hands. So with walking, there are more automated controls, and there's also a joystick. So the joystick goes to turn almost like a video game, turn in place, and then walk forward or sideways. But there's another way to use waypoints, which is more automated. And the robot can plan the footsteps it's going to take automatically, and then have the operator basically complete that plan, avoiding obstacles. Notice that valves in this gantries, you got this harness above her, but the harness is actually loose, so it's not there to support her weight. She can support her own weight. It's just there to catch her in case she falls. Because with the older generation robot like this, you can't withstand the falls without breaking something, and also can't get back up off the ground, which is actually a pretty difficult task. So newer generations of robots were able to withstand and recover from falls, and also operate untested, so on battery power, at least for an hour or so at a time. And those are really key to opening up the number of tasks that robots can do, especially when they're deploying to something like this. I don't know if Alex, you wanted to talk about what Valkyrie now?
Yeah, we're playing some tic-tac-toe. And looks like I just lost to the robot, but this is a way that we demonstrate some of the fine-tune manipulation capabilities that a human hand has. And so you'll see why we have, that's actually a prosthetic hand, so it's adapted to the robot, but why we have a dexterous hand similar to the human hand on the robot, to showcase some of this fine-tune manipulation capabilities that the robot's able to have.
We're part of the Aspen Materials Curation Group here at Johnson Space Center, and it's our job to keep all of NASA's space routes safe. And so starting with the Apollo samples in 1969, over the last 52 years we've added 9 different collections. We don't have all of those here for you today, but weirdly, we picked the moon and a little bit of meteorite and some of our simulants that are helping us get ready to go back to the moon. So we have these two displays here that are actually moon rocks. This is an Apollo 11 sample that Neil Armstrong collected, and that's gone back out in outer space, then went back to the space station for the 40th anniversary, so that's our rock star. I only have one joke, so I have to work it in. The one in the middle is an Apollo 17 sample you can actually touch, that's a touchstone. And then the ones on the far end, three quarters of the way down, those are our display samples and our education samples. We send those out to K-12 schools around the country, about 500 a year. We expose about 100,000 kids each year to hands-on experience with moon rocks and meteorites. The two in front of it are actually meteorites. They're pieces of asteroids that fall into Earth. They're not really related to the moon. We want to give you something to touch, so you wouldn't touch our sample that you're not allowed to touch. Those are fun because they're older than the Earth itself. And then at the very end, last but certainly not least, we have our simulant collection. And as we get ready to go back to the moon, there's a lot of testing involved. Amy's going to talk to you more about that in a bit. But we can't do all that on Apollo samples. We don't have enough. We don't want to use it all for our testing. So the first round of that goes into these different simulants that they use to get the astronauts ready to go back to the moon safely.
So these are our lunar simulants. So these are lava rock cinders. You guys feel free to take it, pass around, touch them. But basically we can pulverize these rocks to add into our lunar simulants to mimic some of the glass properties we know is in lunar regolith. So up here I have 3 different types of lunar simulants in our Mars simulant. This is a Mare simulant. This is like the type of dust we landed in Apollo. You can see it's a little bit darker than these two. And these are highland simulants. This is where we're gonna land in Artemis. And so there are very different properties. We have to worry about glare, we have to worry about UV, we have to worry about magnetism. There's a lot of different things we have to worry about when it comes to returning to the lunar surface. So these simulants help us to test for these various types of failure modes, right? So these are our 1 pound bean bags. They have ortho fabric on the outside. That's actually our spacesuit material. And what we were doing, we were investigating how the abrasion effects are with ortho fabric and lunar simulant. What we found out was it gets really trapped under all the different woven layers of ortho fabric. And so we tried to use various types of coatings to mitigate the dust from getting underneath. And we got a lot of mixed results. Some coatings did a great job, some coatings did even worse than uncoated. So it was a really eye-opening study that you can't just use everything. There's not a one-size-fit-all solution. And you have to be very intentional about what you're doing to mitigate the dust. And then this final lunar sample is a special one. It actually has a very specific type of grain in it. It's called an agglutinate. So it's a random size, random shaped grain. It's hard to mimic because you get these from micrometeorite impacts and hot rocks spewing into the air and then immediately solidifying. But this has agglutinates in it, and so this is going to be like the most health hazard simulant you can work with, right? Don't want to breathe this one in. Probably not any of them, but the agglutinates help us to understand even more of the abrasion effects of lunar dust. And this is our Martian simulant. We have a lot of it at Chapia, which is the 3D printed habitat that they're doing a study on for Martian living. So 6 brave people or 4 brave people are going to be living in this habitat for a year and a half with the same type of delays that they would have on the Martian surface, and it's going to be a time. Like, they willingly signed up for this study, and they have to grow their own food, and they have to do EVAs in our simulated Martian dust. And
so you've got to
see on your left at the end.
Yeah.
Edge over the side. We've been something.
So there's very few places on Earth that are like an almost exact match for this because of all the things.
There you go.
Yeah, around the place. I think it's in the.
No big deal.
Let's go.
Of course, it's going in the group chat.
Yeah, it's already in there.
Welcome.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much.
We'll wait till everyone gets up here. And don't worry, you get to go in. You get to play. You get to be an astronaut. Absolutely. All right. we have everyone, hey, welcome. And they'll open up this hatch right up top, and they'll actually go out of our vehicle into the human lander. So today you all get to be a crew member. Erica is gonna hand you guys a super cool, very stylish helmet, and we'll walk down in there. There's 4 seats, so we're designed for 4 crew up to 21 days, as I'm sure you guys all know. But you actually can go in and you can be a crew member. So you can actually sit. We got commander seat, pilot seat, and your mission specialists are the 2 down there. Commander seat and pilot seat. The display panel is going to be up in front of you. You can touch all the buttons you want to. You can't launch us, I promise. But you'll kind of see and get a feel for essentially how the crew is going to be when they do this mission, especially for Artemis 2, right, where they check out all these cool systems. So Erica, I think we have 4 people at a time that we can go in. She'll help you guys out. When you get in, please try and not touch this one. It's not exactly rated to hang out and hold us, but you can grab a hold of here. There's a step down there, and there's some handrails down there. And I will meet you guys inside.
All right.
Just careful for yourself. All the brown ones you guys can hold on to.
You said I can grab onto this? Okay.
This is a mock-up, right? So it's a lower fidelity. We build it so that we can do familiarizations for the crew, for individuals come to check it out.
You're gonna sit on this one?
Okay.
As well as just, a general light training. So yeah. So 21 days. Can you imagine being here for 21 days?
Oh my gosh.
With your best friends?
No.
Yeah.
There's no other space. It's just this.
It's basically this. There's a little space underneath the floor, but that's a lot where we store stuff. It's not a lot of space. Enough for you basically to get in, sit down.
Just like right there.
Close the door. Yep. I mean, this is basically, you envision like me potting right now. It's kind of basically how it is.
Wow.
You get really close, right? The crew's really used to it. I like to kind of call it a little bit of like extreme camping, where, you don't have the same luxuries you do at home, but you still have all the same capabilities, right? So we're not going to ask them to put it in a bag, right? It's a system that we can flush out. Urine actually went overboard. Solid waste will stow and return to us, right, in very good filtered canisters, let's put it that way. Yeah, just be careful. Bend however you bend. Our display panel, which you guys are looking at, is how the crew actually can fly the vehicle. So all the switches and things on the side, they'll have all the displays up and running. They actually can go ahead and maneuver the vehicle all around. They have 2 hand controllers. One of them you see. The other one would be actually on the side of your seat. They actually can just like that use 2 different rotational hand or translational and rotational hand control to fly it.
Is there a window?
There's multiple. Okay. There's actually they have 4 windows right up front.
Oh, I'm totally facing
Yeah,
the
no,
wrong
you're
way.
good. So they have 4 windows right up front, and the reason we have them there is that when the crew's flying, that way they can see and give them a perception of what they're looking at outside, right? If they have an exterior.
Switch.
Okay.
Sorry, we don't
Yep.
have as much time as we did.
No worries, and there's also a window right up here on our docking hatch.
Oh, nice.
So they have a little window right there that you can actually see too.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So we're gonna switch it around. And
Absolutely. So cool. It's a lot of fun, yeah. So our vehicle is actually already well under production, so we're actually almost finished with our crew module down at the Cape. Yeah, it's about to get stacked on top of what we call our service module, which is like the propulsion.
And then it just waits there.
We go through actually a huge round of functional testing and